Are you there?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we can start. So I think most of us are here. So just a bit of context for why, well, like the classes on DAOs. Just a bit of context on why Louis. Like I think when I joined, like when I started Vertical Crypto Art, like Louis was already speaking about DAOs since a long, long time, and I think, in my opinion, he's one of the like experts in the space regarding DAOs as much as you can be an expert. So um, if you're not following him on Twitter, do so because he's always sharing really interesting things and like thoughts and threads. So highly recommend a follow. I'll post the link now on the chat. But yeah, over to you, Louis, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Miko, for the intro. Um, I guess. Yeah. I guess like that's a good point. Like, um, you can be like. I mean, there are no like real experts on DAOs the same way that you can have like experts on. I don't know. I mean, in crypto, like, uh, that's probably true as well for NFTs and all these new trends that come up. Like it's hard to be an expert because like we're all kind of at the same. I mean, discovering things at the same time. So yeah, I think like what makes a difference is like I spent quite a lot of time thinking and digging into these things. Um, but yeah, again, like I mean, new people come into space and come up with creative ideas around DAOs and communities and just like I mean on a weekly basis. So maybe that's like some of you in the future. I've seen some artists with like super interesting let's say DAO projects. Um so yeah, I don't like I'm happy if you guys have like questions. I don't know if that's so the chat is Residency General. That's where is it where like we can interact?
It's residency artists.
Residency
So
artists. Cool.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have any questions and stuff. Like, feel free like to make this interactive and I guess like how should this should go. Like, should I just like go over like a quick intro and presentation on DAOs?
yeah, if you want to, that would be amazing. I think if you want to give like a general kind of like overview of your like vision on like what
Cool.
are DAOs and maybe some like cool examples of DAO space, and then I'm sure there'll be
Yeah.
questions and we can go from
Cool.
there.
Yeah. So like, I try to be like, I mean, clear with this. So that was like, so how many of you have like, I don't know how many of you have heard about this concept, like this concept of a DAO. Um, Let me know if we're like not friendly at all with the concept. Um, but DAO, DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, is a concept that dates back from a long time ago, when crypto like was still like in its infancy, and especially Ethereum, like the Ethereum blockchain, where um, NFTs are now traded on a daily basis. Um, in 2016, basically, like Ethereum started in like 2015, and in 2016 you had like a group of people that came together. At that time, you really didn't really have any applications or companies or NFT platforms on top of Ethereum. It was pretty bare bones, just like really low level developers. Lots of, I mean, all the talks were around technical things. But it was this concept like that came up around a project called the DAO. And so the idea here was that people would program, leveraging smart contracts on Ethereum and the smart contract logic. They would put funds together and then vote on allocating these funds to a bunch of different initiatives. So like create this kind of like on chain, on the blockchain, fund where people pool resources and then kind of like use some governance process to allocate these funds into different types of things. And so like this was like the genesis of what you would call a DAO. Um, and I mean the like the very concept of a DAO came from an earlier blog post by Vitalik where he described like networks of nodes and actors who would like execute different tasks and would be administrated through an algorithm in a decentralized way. Um, so that was the first iteration. Eventually, the DAO, like this investment vehicle, got hacked, and so it was a failure, and so you wouldn't like see any more additional like experiments until like actually like much later on. So a couple of years down the road. Um, and they were so like but the idea of like having pulling funds together and having governance process to allocate these funds to a bunch of different things as a community and maybe like having a token that is a governance token that can vote that can let people vote and have a voice in how these things are done and allocated. So that's an idea that it's sticked with like the whole space in general, and what you regularly see in the Web3 space is that concepts like NFTs, like DAOs, like DeFi, they have their hype moments, they have like their cycles. And so you had like, CryptoKitties, NFTs in 2017, there was a hype cycle around that. And then NFTs made a like huge comeback just like 3 years later into 2020. Like, I mean, um, and in till like now in the current bull run we're in with NFTs. It's still going with different trends. But so yeah, and DAOs are coming up now again. So you have more and more tooling to kind of like create treasuries, pool money together, um, vote. Like people have been experimenting a lot with governance. I mean, a lot more. Like some big projects have big treasuries where token holders can vote to make decisions, make more decisions, have a say over how the project, where the project goes, where the money is spent, and all these things. And so it's heating up again. And what we're seeing now is that um, this kind of like DAO logic of having people come together online, pool resources, and do things together. It's applicable not only to very technical blockchain DeFi projects like decentralized finance, like um, Aave, Yearn Finance. I mean, these like big crypto projects, but also to more like um, kind of a grassroots, so social experiments. And so we've seen like people, creators coming together to create things together and then pool resources and then grow a project like a DAO. We've seen like a number of like social collectors, collectors coming together like Flamingo. So people had like that was one of the early DAOs pulled if together, um, and then started collecting a bunch of like significant artworks in the space. And so each time it's about people that come together around a shared interest, whether that's creating, whether that's collecting, curating, but also like that can be pretty much anything. That can be also like building things, building um, things together. That was actually like the early days of DAOs. That was like even Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's kind of how they came to life. Like these open source projects, a bunch of like hackers, cypherpunks. They would come together, start working on a project because they shared a vision, um, and then eventually, this small group would share ownership in the project once the blockchain would go live, and they would share have ETH in the wallet, and these early pioneers or adopters, of course, like lots of them had tons of ETH and have really benefited from the upside of having been early and contributing to having contributed to the project um, in different ways. So that's kind of like a very broad overview of DAOs. so you have like these different categories, like big protocol, DeFi, technical DAOs, um, collector DAOs, more like this kind of like more social DAOs, human DAOs, where actually like this kind of like decentralized organization name isn't that applicable because that's mostly um, just a bunch of people coming together, putting some money in a wallet, and then using that money, and making decisions in more or less decentralized processes. So like that's not, it's not like a purely decentralized autonomous organization, but the name has stuck with this trend so far. I'm not entirely sure that we'll still call it a DAO. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe it'll look a little bit old in retrospect. Um, but still, like this trend is ongoing, and it really blends and merges with all these trends that you have in the more like real world, where more and more projects are community driven. You have all these, the past 10 years have been a lot about crowdfunding projects. um, More and more companies have been, growing just like from having a community and growing an audience on Instagram and all these things. And so the way projects and businesses are done, and even politics or whatnot, is a lot about, just like having an online community where things go viral, um, you know, can happen all over the globe at the same time. And so I don't know if you guys have seen, um, in a couple of months ago there was this um, GameStop event where a bunch of people over Reddit coordinated to uh, basically invest in the same meme stock, like this old video game franchise, like physical stores that was on the verge of collapse. And so just like for kind of the fun of it, people like a bunch of like millennials started like buying this stock and going making it go to the moon, and at the same time like ripping off lots of profits from hedge funds. And so like this kind of like new way of like coordinating all online in a more or less decentralized way and doing things together is really something that's also really anchored in kind of like the habits and values of upcoming generations as well. So yeah, DAO tooling is the kind of like the next generation of things where actually now you'll be able to organize these things like GameStop, or even like some decentralized activist movements that aren't really sustainable because like they want to remain decentralized, or be leaderless, but they don't really have a way to have a structure that fits with this philosophy. And DAOs somewhat enable that because you can be pretty creative about the way you want to take decisions. You can program that in the blockchain, and eventually that's fairly flexible based on the organization or the movement that you want to create. So yeah, I'm seeing lots of different things, not very structured, but I think that's what I hope is that for those of you who haven't really digged into DAOs for now, kind of sets the scene for where they come from and why they might make sense in the next couple years and decades. Um, and yeah, I'll just like finish this short introduction by insisting on the fact that when it comes to creators, DAOs, and the current things that we're seeing in the space, I'm sure that you guys have seen the CryptoPunks and the apes and all these like generative art um, things. Yeah, just today, but um, yeah, I collected this creator NFT um, profile picture that I now have in Twitter that I love a bit. And so yeah, it's really like these things are really like community driven. Like jumping on the CryptoPunk Discord is something that will that'll give you a network to with through like-minded, or I don't know, rich and powerful individuals. But there's a really, and so like this could be considered DAOs in a way, because you have 10,000 artworks in this in the series. Um, in order to access the Discord, you have to hold one of these um, NFTs. And eventually, like people, I mean, that's also true for Squiggle DAO, which is another generative art project. Like people started pooling resources, putting like squiggles in the treasury, and then um, funding things through the funds that could be pulled. Um, so and all these things are like community building efforts. So it's about getting the right people together around like this shared purpose. Um, these NFTs, like they give you like this kind of like shared sense of identity and belonging. So you're really like into like community and tribe territory in terms of like the psychology of the whole thing. Um, and anyone can like start a community or build a community or start a DAO. Obviously demands like quite a lot of work. Kind of like signal what you're about. Maybe that's something in your art. Maybe that's some statement that you want to make, and let people rally around this thing, and then create um, then create like the momentum to get people together um and start getting things done. I think that's also a lot, this kind of like community building, like what's happening now with what Mikol is doing with vertical crypto art. There's like very close parallels to be made to a DAO. I mean, a community and a DAO is like there's just a fine line between these two things, and eventually how it's just, I mean, today we would probably just differentiate a community from a DAO, um, you know, by whether the tooling it uses, does it have a token, and these kinds of things. But yeah, I think like the most important part of a DAO actually is like still like community building and getting the right people together and stuff. Um, so I'll just stop now to um yeah, to get like questions, or maybe like, yeah, because I'm happy to also dive deeper into some of these things and maybe clarify other things. But yeah, glad to take some questions or dive deeper into, I don't know what you'd be interested in.
I mean, I have a few questions, but I want to let you guys ask questions first, if you have them. I can see Nagar is typing, so I'll wait for people that might not have a voice as well. But if you do have anything that you'd like Louis to like dig deeper in, feel free to unmute.
Hi, Louis. I'm Callan. Thanks for that intro. I'm really new to DAOs. Like I've heard of the name and heard a bit about it, but I'm a total noob. But I'm really interested in it because I have a Discord with crypto writers, and we're kind of building a crypto writer community, and it's really building. Um, it's building momentum at the moment. And there have been people who have brought up this question of creating a DAO and whether it would be useful. So I was just wondering if maybe you can expand on like creators and artists DAOs, and like how they're using the DAO um, to like what how yeah how they're using it, like are they using it to promote their work, like what do you have to have a treasury, is that like the foundation of a DAO, and like what would they use the the money for, if you have any examples of creative based DAOs, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, Colin. Nice to meet. So um yeah, I think like currently like the most, I mean, DAOs I can think of. So like DAOs are really, a philosophy and a way of, doing things. And I mean, it'd be interesting to see like what are the different pillars of operating like a DAO. Because so in the past 12 months, we've made lots of progress with tooling, but it's still like pretty basic. In terms like in terms of the sophistication of tools and the things that you can actually do because like there's so you lots of aspirations with those are those who contribute will receive a share of ownership in the project. That's like one of the pillar of DAOs. It's also automating a lot like the distribution and contributing and being rewarded for work. These kinds of things like automating tasks and through software um, and work. So these are like fairly complex things. For now, like artists and creator DAOs. I mean, so I'm currently chatting with an upcoming creator DAO called Voyager DAO, um, and so far I think that the idea as a creator DAO is to just like create things as a group, like see ways where be um kind of like obtain synergies from working together, either through collaborations or sharing work or getting more done or specializing in some things and stuff. um and yeah, I expect like more and more creators will start like um working together and selling their works as creations or and NFTs, but also like working for other groups and other communities and other DAOs. um and so in terms of like the things that you can do today, I come back to what you said is like you know putting resources together. Maybe that's a lot of DAOs, what they do today is like they invest in other DAOs or other projects. So that could be like as a group of creators, you guys are pulling resources to kind of like invest in some of these like upcoming generative art projects that are nice because you guys have an eye and you have kind of like tastes and you can create. So that's like one very obvious use case. Put some money together, then vote to to allocate these resources. Um, there are like ways um, to like yeah, there are like tools as well to kind of like more like do kind of administrate track contributions in a community on, for example, on Discord, like see who participates most and stuff. um some communities like use these things, like there's this tools called SourceCred that you can plug into your Discord, and whoever gets like the more upvotes or emojis in the Discord gets rewards at the end of the month in the token that you choose. So like these things can be used to kind of like incentivize people to participate. Um, but overall, I think that the thing with creating like a creator DAO or an artist DAO um, is that you'll have to define your own mission in a way, because like there aren't so many examples of collectives operating as such. So that's like the playbook is being written as we speak. And so in my eyes it's just like a matter of um seeing why would it make sense to kind of like pull these resources, or starting to actually sell artworks on behalf of a DAO and not on behalf of individual artists. What are things that you're going to be able to achieve that you are not able to achieve as just like atomized individuals? um so that's something that has been that has to be researched um for every like on a case by case um basis. Yeah. And yeah, and then like when it comes to having a token and stuff, because that's kind of like the more longer term path for DAO. um that's something that has to be thought about quite well as well. And these things are fairly complex. I recommend to kind of like start a DAO and just like start kind of like distributing NFTs instead of like fungible tokens to contributors of the to the project, because like NFTs aren't really transferable. I mean, they're not easily transferable. Um, and so there's a healthy thing in like just like collecting. For example, let's say I contribute an artwork to the DAO, or I participate in a project, or I do community management for the Discord. Then every couple of weeks or every month, I'll receive this NFT, and so you can keep track of contributions to the project. And eventually, at some point, if you want to, you'll be able to reward these people with an airdrop, a token, or something like that. But yeah, that's the long answer. um there's no like typical playbook. I think everyone's still trying to figure it out, so I think that's where also it's an exciting time to just like go and start and see how it goes.
Thank you so much. So it's possible to instead, so you don't actually need a token to have a DAO. You can just use like the NFTs, like you said. Like you just create your own NFT and then you send it to whoever
Yeah,
wants to. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like,
Okay.
you don't need like there's no clear delineation like between um like between what's a DAO and what's not. People have been calling themselves a DAO because they have a MetaMask wallet, and they take decisions together on Discord and collect artworks or invest in things, um, and have a private Discord. I mean, everything can be a DAO. Um, it's just about it's that's why I say it's more about the philosophy right now, and a way of kind of like it's kind of like the direction that you want your community to take. Um, where instead of just like a loose community where you jump in once in a while because you're interested in such or such idea or project, and it's more like a tight knit group that is going to eventually kind of like build a project together, maybe make money together, be aligned through holding the same token. And you don't have to launch this token from scratch for sure. um yeah, again, yeah, uh, recommend, like, I mean, NFTs are, I think, a good path to start with.
So like the difference between like a regular just Discord community and a DAO is like the voting mechanism and a philosophy that kind of leads the group,
Yeah,
or is there?
exactly. Yeah, that's
Okay.
that's that's the thing. Like, that's so you can think of like communities as like this. I mean, that's actually like you're kind of adding some like skin of the game, because like you're adding, so it's like how crypto works, adding this layer of economic kind of like skin in the game and incentives uh, to what's already existing. And so yeah, once you're in, eventually members um, are incentivized to just like stick around and participate to the project, because there's this shared kind of destiny to all the people who have started it out together, and eventually also like you create relationships with other people and form a more tight knit group. Um, but yeah, the treasury and the voting are like the two main components right now. Um, and there are more and more projects working on new pieces of the puzzle, like yeah, how to track contributions, how to create subcommittees of people who are experts in such and such and can like have their own budgets and stuff, like, so that these things look more like organizations than, I mean, so yeah, so DAOs can become more organized. But all this is fairly new.
Thank you so much. Super helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Louis. I have a question if you are familiar about crypto.
Sorry, which one?
Uh, Hiketnung DAO, the
Oh,
NFT platforms DAO.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm not like I've not participated in the Hikit Nunk community. I think it's a great project. And I know it has received like tons of interest and from artists and stuff. But I'm not aware of the Hikit Nunk DAO in itself. So I couldn't really tell you about it.
Okay, okay. And thank you.
Louis, I'd love to hear more about, like, for example, like friends with benefits, like the community, like the more kind of like social community DAOs as well. And what's, I guess, the difference between, like there's a difference between kind of like investment DAOs in a way, like for example, Squiggly or the what's it called, the Meebits. Like you have an investment, like you have an NFT, and so you automatically are part of a DAO. But then there's like DAOs that are more on the social, like community side, where you essentially are interested in being part of the community, maybe buying like a token, you automatically get access into the DAOs. So I'd love to hear like that kind of differentiation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like so one big aspect like of a DAO um is how you get in and how you participate. Um and so there's always this idea of like how members are selected, and that's like a huge thing that's going to define how kind of like the substance of your community, what it's about, who are the players or who are the participants and stuff. So you could think like um at a very abstract level, like Ethereum is a DAO and miners are people that participate in the DAO. um and they have to put some like economic resources at work. That's the barrier to entry. Like you have to buy computers, you have to burn electricity to do mining and stuff. That's how people are created and members are selected in a way. um and so when it comes to social DAOs, you also have like this kind of like barriers to entry. Um and with Friends with Benefits, so Friends with Benefits is like a committee that has been founded um, a couple of months ago, maybe at most a year ago. Um, I don't think so. Yeah, probably later than that. Um, by a guy called Trevor McFredries. He had founded, like in the past, he had founded a company called Broad. I don't know if you guys know about this virtual influencer called Lil Michaela on Instagram. You can look it up. It's pretty like futuristic, but he's wanting to um, recreate like new ways of doing storytelling through like having virtual influencers that are cross platforms. These kind of like 3D characters that have their own like narratives and tell stories to people through these characters. That's pretty fascinating. So the guy like also launched on the side, um, created the Discord and created a token. And in order to access this Discord called so the Discord of the Friends with Benefits community, you had to buy a bunch of tokens. So that was like 50 tokens at first. Um, and then like yeah, you had to value. There's a Discord bot that gets you accepted in the Discord if you have like the right amount of tokens in your wallet. Um, and so you had to go on some exchange, like decentralized exchange like Uniswap, and then buy the tokens and then apply to, I mean, actually get yourself verified on Discord, and then you could access all the channels. um, and Trevor invited like lots of his friends. So lots of interesting people, not all from crypto, mostly from the LA creative scene, like musicians, artists, tech people. But there's like a very strong vibe. If you look at the website, like it's very like um, yeah, it's super like on the trends. There's like tons of great designers. And there's really, I mean, it's definitely like dominantly from the US and people from crypto, and but also like some, I mean, I'd say like it's 50-50. Um And over time, as it's been like the first community to do this type of thing, like create a social network that is gated by a token, um, they've like started to, and it had like lots of cool people in it. Like it's kind of the same thing as punks. Like people started want to be part of the experiment, like, you know, having access to you. So on the Friends with Benefits Discord, you would have like lots of different channels, like sharing insights on NFTs, sharing insights on trading, sharing insights on lots of different things, sharing music. So, and it was like, and so it's now like a community that shares like tons of multiple different interests, and people like come in and participate and interact, and you have access to this like now very expensive like social network, or of a smart and creative people. And so now the value of FWB is really like, I mean, it's definitely started as this place where you would find like-minded people that would be like eager to chat and play around and maybe build some things and create things together. And over time, as the, you know, the token appreciated, and how as new people, new talented people came in, um, the committee could undertake like more and more ambitious projects. So it had now has an editorial team that creates like weekly digests that are super nice. You know, summing up all the things, the interesting things that have happened in the community, both like in the, yeah, in their Discord, but also like outside of it in Web3 and the creative world. They have a product team that has built this great website that you can see, and a bunch of like different other like pages. They've built their own NFT platform where, you know, FWB members can mint and be promoted directly by the community. They've been also like having these treasury and governance proposals that have been voted on, but thanks to the Friends with Benefits token. um so for example, like very recently they had like important discussion around having investors from Silicon Valley invest in the community, so basically buying FWB from the committee's treasury directly at a very high price compared to what it was at the time. And so the token just like blew up and the value appreciated a lot. And there's been like tons of conversations around how to keep the community accessible to people and to creatives, because now like it's super expensive to apply for membership. um and so this raises tons of questions about access and, you know, what type of people you want had to have in the community. So they've been thinking about scholarships, new membership mechanisms and stuff. And so this thing is turning into like actually like a major project. Now has like more than 100 million market cap, uh large treasury, very highly skilled people leading different initiatives, and an influx of like new and talented members every day. um so yeah, that's like very like, I guess one of the most advanced example of a social DAO that has started through just like getting kind of like same type of people together, uh, and then thanks to like, you know, just accruing more and more talent and more money in the same place, um, things started to come up, and people came up with ideas, and they're just like accelerating at a very fast pace now and doing more and more things. So that's what like successful kind of like community can look like. um, and that's definitely like a huge a great like interesting precedent to look at. And yeah, you can also like apply for scholarship there if you're interested as creatives. So yeah, feel free to ask questions about that.
Thanks, that's super interesting. Like, of course, they're like the most, I mean, from what I know and I've seen like in the space, they are like the super, I guess, the more like advanced, you know, type of like social DAO that exists. But it's really interesting how they created, you know, the whole community. Like it's super cool, to be honest.
Yeah, what's interesting about it is like it kind of happened as an accident. It's one of these things that, you know, in crypto you don't really know, and sometimes like things blow up you know, kind of unexpectedly. So Trevor really started this as, you know, a very fun experiment to invite friends and stuff, and eventually, like, I don't know, there was, I mean, probably right time, right place, and there was like this new crowd that was super interested and like super stoked to, you know, be able to get together and to kind of like create their history in this new environment and experiment with these things together. So that's one example where, you know, this kind of like new way of like, you know, kind of like new internet entity that's a DAO, like this kind of like more I mean, we've always even like socialized on social media as in on Instagram, on Twitter, and even like most platforms today. But in the future, like there are strong reasons to think that, you know, to believe that people will be part of DAOs and socialize inside of DAOs, and DAOs will like kind of like interact with each other more, like, you know, do business together, do partnerships. I mean, Friends with Benefits as well has been like partnering with a number of other projects in this space, you know, kind of like obtaining cool um newsletters for free for its community and this kind of things as it grew. Um, so like possibilities are uh, endless, and yes, as you said, Mikol, like um, that's probably like the most advanced social DAO in the space so far. But now what you can see is that there's like a tremendous acceleration in the interest of people around forming a DAO. And I'm contributing to an accelerator called Seed Club that helps um, basically, yeah, helps like communities launch their token and or like set, you know, create a strategy to go towards this. Um, and we've now received like more than 80 applications with very solid profiles in the for the next like cohort. um, and so you can definitely see the space is warming up at a tremendous rate. There's also the fact that um, NFT platforms launching their tokens is kind of like spreading the you know, the word and kind of like educating creators as to what um, these kind of like tokens can be used for and why community treasury makes sense. Uh, why how you can operate as a DAO, and so this will probably like create a new wave of, you know, interest into like social tokens. So I expect like we'll probably go from, you know, 20 communities today to thousands and thousands in a couple of years, if not month. So that's definitely like an interesting space at this point.
That's super cool. I completely missed the accelerator. But yeah, I just shared the Seed Club Twitter as well, which is a really interesting profile to follow, just even for like kind of like insights on DAOs as well. I think they always share really good content too, for sure.
Yep, really recently wrote a piece in Sid Club. Let me share this to you. But like so yeah, it's called Growing a Tokenized Community, and really tackles like the early days and um kind of like the first steps to growing a DAO. So if you guys are interested.
I think sometimes the usage of the DAO is misleading people. I will give an example. Like this Hackathon DAO, when this DAO created, people thought that the Hackathon platform is decentralized, autonomous organization. Uh, Many people
I agree. You're breaking up a little bit with the audio.
Okay, then I will write to the text.
No, we can hear you now. I think maybe just stay closer to the
Okay.
microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
And people thought this hackathon will be decentralized. This will have some kind of share the platform, share this decentralized platform. Afterwards, as I understand, the creator said, no, the hackathon will be decentralized.
We can't hear you, Kagura.
We
I'm
can
sorry.
hear you very well, but I think I've got what you
we got
said.
the idea.
And probably Mikkel, you have some context on this. Maybe you have. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Basically-
Kagura, what you're saying is that there was this vision about the Hickenlunk DAO, and it never happened. Like, to be honest,
yes, the DAO thing misleaded people. Like we are using it for some upvoting the works, but like it is a upvoting token.
So
Yeah. I mean,
So let me
I think.
go ahead, Miguel.
Sorry, Louis. Just context for this. I think like the whole situation with Hickenlunk, like it's been very disappointing on a lot of levels. So I think it's. For sure, I completely get it. Like there was never a DAO. There probably, I don't even know if there will be ever a DAO. To be honest, with Hickenlunk, the HDAO token is not a voting token or not a DAO token, but primarily tradable. That's kind of like the only use of HDAO at the moment. But
Can
yeah,
you guys
I
fill me in on what happened with the DAO?
Yeah, there was never a DAO essentially. So like, the idea of HDAO was seeded by the creator of Hic et Nunc, but the creation of the DAO community never happened. Even though I have never seen I have never seen a community come to help without, in that way as I have with Hic et Nunc, without getting like any form of rewards, any form of anything. Like I've never seen it in my time in the space or anywhere else, to be honest. So, and still to this day, there are many people contributing to the advancement and the just the life of Hic et Nunc, to be honest. So yeah, it was weird. It is weird. It still is very weird and confusing to me too. But for sure, I feel what Kagura is saying. Actually, I also heard from some other examples of other DAOs that are, call themselves DAOs, but they're not really. Like, I mean, they don't really. I don't even know what exactly you should have to be a DAO, and that maybe is a bigger question. But like, yeah, maybe sometimes the word DAO gets bounced around too easily or too quickly.
Totally. I think this was honestly, I kind of um conceded the use of the word DAO now. I mean, at some point I was kind of tweeting against it because I think that's a very theoretical concept that can be very misleading. This kind of it's full of very kind of loaded words like decentralized, autonomous organization. Um, that's a very the way it's described in papers at first. Um, that's definitely not what most DAOs, 99% of DAOs look like. I think so. I'll tell you a little bit about a story. So I started working in the space at a project called Aragon, that in 2016 had raised $25 million in ETH, to create a framework for DAOs. So basically to let people create DAOs easily, let them pull capital and vote, and also do project management, all in the same place. Eventually the product and project hasn't worked out, but we also had this process to kind of onboard new teams to develop the product and become a DAO ourselves, become decentralized. And eventually it didn't work. I kind of the same. So the founders couldn't have the project. Couldn't let go with controlling all the things that happened. And eventually created a lot of drama and teams kind of fighting with each other. Um, this is to say that from my experience, I've seen like many projects struggling from going to fairly centralized way of developing and creating products to a more like community governed thing, because I think like one very complicated point here is culture. Like it's super hard to, as go from a startup kind of project or a small team kind of project to a more like really where like there's a small number of people taking decisions to a really like community led where where lots of people take decisions. So that's why I think the early days are especially important in setting like kind of the general direction, and that also like DAOs are good marketing today, so projects may abuse it, like say we're a DAO and stuff, but most projects aren't a DAO, like and they're not really, and eventually they will fall into like this current gray zone of um projects that are not just decentralized but are still like also just working with their community on different aspects. And so for example, like you have all these startups that are going to launch their tokens, maybe NFT platforms and stuff, and eventually um I think like these are like DAOified startups, like startups on their way to kind of like expand community efforts. um but they're not like a DAO in the same way as like fully uh, community driven project, like from scratch, like I don't know, the punks and stuff, where things happened in a community led way from the beginning. So in the case of Hicket Nunk, definitely agree that, I mean, this type of things have happened in the past and will certainly happen more till we kind of like, as a space and yeah, as an industry, kind of like integrate the norms um of like yeah, this is good practice, this is bad practice, this is like, we know that decentralizing is hard, here's what not to do, and here are red flags on why things may go wrong. um but yeah, um I think it's important to be very consistent and clear with the messaging when you're a DAO project, and not try to kind of like oversell what you're doing when you're not really fully decentralized or a DAO.
Yeah, I think Andrea also mentioned, maybe it's just me, but I find this idea of connecting rights inside a community to something that can be traded a little bit scary, unless it's limited um, to very specific aspects of it.
Yeah, I think like, I mean, this is probably going to be a major discussion also going forward, like token voting and token weighted voting, that's tied to financial um kind of like, yeah, financial uh, basically, yeah, financial power from an individual, and whales controlling the network, and maybe that's this can like very early players or the core team or the CEOs, um and things can be manipulated, and you can buy votes and all these things. um so I think this is really a suboptimal setup right now. Now I think that through experience, the there will be a decoupling between this kind of like, between governance. I mean, especially in projects that launch in the future and don't have like this depth of having currently a governance token, which I think you always have, like once tokens are out, once your governance token is out, it's hard to correct the course. It asks for a lot of work, but in the future you could think of having just like groups of people like in your community that hold governance power on certain things. Let's say you have a creator DAO, you have like you have like lots of artists or creators specialized in lots of different areas, and maybe you have a group, a subgroup with which is like specialized in generative art, um, and who's in charge of like creating or collecting or writing pieces about generative art. and the decisions can be, this group can hold an NFT as a group, like maybe like 10 people hold the same NFT, and they make the decisions and they vote on things on this kind of like one person, one vote basis. Maybe they've been elected by token holders previous to this. But yeah, so like there's different ways. We're still very early with governance. And I agree with you that, there've been like lots of critics made around token voting, token weighted voting with fungible tokens. But I think like experimenting with NFTs and lots of different layers of governance, communities and councils and stuff will tend to mitigate some of this. But yeah, that's kind of the direction.
I think we also had a question from Negar that I completely missed before, which says, well, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do too? I love to know that is what is community growth and what you do for Super Rare, and I'd like to know more about Rare and how it all happened with Super Rare, and is there necessarily a DAO related to this token?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Nigar.
The $1
So
million question, Louis.
no, I think like so first like I mean so I've been working in a way that's related to DAOs for some time now. So started with Aragon, the project I told you guys about. Eventually like then I wrote about DAOs a year and a half ago, when like there were almost no DAOs in existence, like no social DAOs. Um, and then I eventually joined SuperAir to help them on community side of things a year ago or so. Like background was finance and all these things, but I kind of realized that I'm way more interested in like content and marketing and people and community management and community building and DAOs. Um, so like spent the year at SuperAir the last year. And yeah, plan to just like keep focusing on DAOs and probably helping SuperAir like develop its DAO in the future. Um and yeah, I think like so the decision for Super to launch a token was to go towards being a more like decentralized and community owned project that could include contributions and include projects by many more stakeholders in the space than just like this early team um, founded by um, John Crane, Jonathan Perkins, Charles Crane, um, and Zach Yanger. And so the like yeah the team decided to just like hand off more ownership in the platform into like the hands of those who have participated in it and kind of like participate to its success so far. And so there's I mean who's like contributing a lot to the platform. There's like the super team, but there's also like in massive ways artists and collectors who have been creating all the content on the platform and also like all the sales volume and funding the project, and who have been like interacting on 24/7 um, on socials and Twitter, kind of like to participating in conversations around the future of Super Air and where the crypto art space should go and stuff. So the token was the first move towards rewarding and kind of like making people an owner of the project through the rare token. um and today like most tokens have been like governance tokens that where you basically you'd have a forum and then anyone could come up with a proposal and eventually um anything could be discussed and put to a vote, and people vote with their tokens. But what we've seen recently is that for some of these projects like things have gone somewhat wrong. You had like malicious proposals or things have been manipulated by a bunch of like large holders of the tokens and stuff. So what we wanted for rare, it was to have its use case a core, a thing that would be make sense to what the community is, which is like an art community. um and so, adding kind of like, and also we had this problem of, how to onboard new artists on the platform in a way that's more like community driven and decentralized. Because so far, Super had been creating people just, manually and in a very centralized way. And so an obvious use case for Rare is like to for it to be a curation token, um, where like Rares allow you to vote on basically like these super, what we call super spaces, these new storefronts that will pop up on Super Rare, and have their own space and own pages on the Super Rare website. um, and these spaces, they'll be able to also like onboard artists themselves, and kind of like also create uh generate revenues from the sales they make. And so the hope behind this is that now like we'll have like more entities, more communities, more curators being able to have a voice in the creation of the artists that come on the platform, and also that can take care of like the promotions and the exposure, and giving more visibility to the artists they support, because also like relying only on Super Rare's Twitter feed to kind of like share, reshare, or retweet artworks from Super Rare artists wasn't sustainable anymore. um, so yeah, we're looking to create like new nodes of curation. So like Super Rare was like the first node, um, and so Super Spaces um, will be like, yeah, additional nodes to like hopefully diversify and scale the Super network to a much larger extent. And so Rare really made sense because like there's also this fact of, now lots of early participants in the platform are really aligned also financially in participating and involving with the, kind of like Super's business in a way, and Super's governance, and where it will go and make the decisions. And also like, so that's really enlarges the conversation. And yeah, so that's like most of it. Now I think like one thing that I want to be cautious with this launch is that, same as, for kind of like he get knocked down and stuff, like, so these DAO words are used, and DAOs can mean anything and everything. So I think like major like thing that the team wants to work on is, kind of like framing this, the unrolling of um Super governance is this new like voting avenues in a step by, in a way that's step by step. I think like Super is a startup becoming a DAO, or a startup basically working with its community now more than before. um I don't think it has any, kind of like um vocation to just like for the Super core team to disappear and stuff. I think like culturally it's kind of like not something that you can achieve. It's like, kind of like now you're already a grown up and you have to change everything. That's not what humans do. I don't think that's what organizations do. So that's something we'll probably just see in the space. But yeah, stoked that you're excited. I think that's a fun use case. I think that's a cool thing for a token as well. Like basically like electing these store, the space owners. It's really something that's going to be core to the art that we see. So that's something that we should all be interested in. Um, so yeah, we hope that the process is going to be fun and engaging, and also like add value to the whole platform and community. And hopefully that reflects in the Rare token. Then I think, yeah, and then it's just like the beginning of a very long journey. And we'll see like probably lots of change and new things added on the way.
Thank you. Hey, this is Nega. I'm just I was super excited about reading about the spaces, and just now I see that the rare token can like play a part of it. Maybe like I didn't know how this all would connect to make a DAO or so this will be somehow a use for rare tokens in spaces, right?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, that's exactly it. I'm just like scrolling the super feed for um looking for a tweet thread that um was a great recap for some of the things that we announced. So there's this like this one that I'm sharing now, um, and there's another one. Share it. All right, I got it. So yeah, these two threads, they're very useful to kind of like get more insights into how things are going to happen, um, how so like the voting process for the super spaces is going to be called Space Race. Um, yeah, so like the reference is obvious to like the 80s space race, but the 60s wasn't the 60s, yeah, probably. Um, and and so like you'll have a governance process where spaces are going to be able to apply, create proposals, say what they're about, what they want to do, how many, how much fees they want to take, um, samples of artists they'd like to have on board, and that kind of things. Eventually, like once these applications have been reviewed and validated, people will be able to rare holders will be able to use their rare to vote on to upvote the spaces that they'd like to see on super rare. And I think the plan is to onboard two new spaces in the next like in the first voting cycle that should happen like in the next 2 months, and then go and gradually onboard more um, through the year and see how things evolve and chat with the community to make sure we're taking the best direction here.
Thank you. So one other question. To know that I get it right now, the application is open for like curators to submit their own ideas of these spaces, or who are these people who actually are in charge of this? And
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, exactly. So
are they like collector based or curator based or?
so like there anyone can apply to own a space. Um, so I mean you'll become a creator eventually, but like I mean so that could be like so for example like vertical crypto art could apply to own a space. Mocha could do it. You guys, I mean you and a couple of people in this conversation could also team up and put the cohesive proposal together, and then it's just a matter of being convincing to the rest of the community like we're about to we want to become like a space owner. We want to create um, artists on super rare. We are well versed or experts or we want to push such and such art category. Maybe that's kind of like maybe that's a social um, a creator. Yeah, maybe that's a type of art that you want to put forward. um so and eventually like and so yeah, anyone can do it. I think like with anything you have to be it's like it's kind of an election, so you have to be somewhat convincing. There'll be competition with like who's going to want to own a space. But yeah, the idea here is that provided that you meet like this kind of like proposal template that we're going to put out, and you fill that the different like elements in there, anyone can come up with a space proposal.
Do you have to hold like a certain amount of rare to be able to do the proposal, or?
That's a very good question. That I have to dig into, because like yeah, we're kind of like finalizing the latest details on the kind of like proposal process. This will definitely be announced when we unveil more of the details. But yeah, I'll just like make sure that I circulate the info once it's out.
Are there any other questions for Louis? I think it's something that I maybe wanted to ask. I shared, the pinned tweet that you have on your profile. But are there any like resources that you recommend to look at? For example, like if anyone from this group is like interested in knowing more about DAOs, like how do they set up, I don't know, like even like a token or like voting tools, the app you mentioned that kind of like analyzes like the contribution on like Discord and stuff like that. Maybe you're on mute, Louis. I'm not sure if you're speaking.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so like the space is moving so fast that there are like new things coming up, and some other things get old pretty quickly. So you have a couple like I can share maybe like a couple like um DAO registries. Yeah, I can do that right after the call. Then I think what's best is like is like um participate in DAO communities like Sit Club, like I don't know, Coinvise. That's a social token platform. Um, I can share that link. Um, yeah, you can also read the things they've written on DAOs. Always helps. And there are like a bunch of like good papers. I could put something together. Maybe like that'll be a right time to do that. And yeah, and I'm kind of like thinking about so I had this project couple month ago called Society. That was like a place for community builders and community managers to come together and chat and share techniques and stuff. So I'm thinking about launching this again, because I mean nobody was into DAOs a couple months ago, and now everyone is into DAOs. So I think that might be the right time. So hopefully that can also be a place to look for information.
Cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
Hi, Louis. Hello. Hello, Miko.
Hey.
Hello, hello.
This is Neda. I have a general question about DAOs. If a DAO patents like an IP or maybe a
So I don't think we can hear you very well, or is it just me? Can you guys hear?
no.
Ah, okay.
No.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Yes, that's amazing. I will read it out. DAO patents an IP or maybe a physical asset, who would be the registered owner? I think maybe you're on mute, Louis. I don't know.
Yep. So that's a good question. There's no like. I mean, there's been like progress is made on the legal front for DAOs to become legal entities. I recommend checking out the Wyoming DAOs. Um, but for now, there's no. I mean, same as for NFTs, there's no clear framework for IP around DAOs. So yeah, I can't think so, and like give more insights into this. I think like until like you have resources and you can kind of like get lawyers to help. Best is probably also just to create like um a traditional structure and just like yeah, use that in the meantime.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? I saw you shared a lot of resources, so that's amazing. Okay. If there's no other questions, yeah, I think thank you so much, Louis. Like if there's any other questions that pop up, Louis is on the Discord as well. I can also filter through questions to him as always. So yeah, thank you so much. This was really great.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me, and yeah, I'm still like looking up for some more um links on DAOs. I'm sharing now like podcasts, um but there are like, which makes me think that I should probably just also put a list together so everyone can enjoy some good resources. Um, yeah, thanks guys
That's
for having
awesome.
me.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I actually heard really brief like podcast last. I shared as well with Koopa Troopa, 20 minutes kind of like interview, which is great. So I'll share that. Share that too.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That makes sense. Cool.
Thank you so much, Louis. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. And yeah, if you have questions, you can ping me on Twitter as well. Yeah. Cheers.
Awesome.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye, everyone. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.